Hello there friends, it's Cassie. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we have some pretty simple cards, so let's get right into what we're using. We're going to be using this Folded Hug stamp by Trinity Stamps. It's a fantastic stamp for your stash because it's great for a lot of things. We're going to be using these patterned papers from Vicki Boutin. It's called Kaleidoscope. And then we're also going to be using some Express It cardstock along with the My Favorite Things rectangle stitched STAX die. I'm going to pull the stamp off of the backing paper, the release, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to put it into my MISTI, and I'm going to line up my Express It cardstock in there. I chose Express It because I plan to do some Copic coloring. If you're new to my channel, that's my favorite paper for Copic coloring. And I'm also inking this up with some Memento Tuxedo black ink, another thing that is my favorite for using alcohol markers. So I'm going to stamp that 3 separate times because I plan to make 3 cards. These cards came together very, very quickly, and it was a lot of fun just simply because I think this is a really good way to use up the pattern paper that you might have in your stash. I know if you're anything like me, if you've been stamping for a number of years, you probably have a pretty decent stash of patterned paper. So this was a good way to do it. I did take each of those patterns and I tried to match up my Copics, the color or the markers that I'm going to be using today, with each of the patterns. So this first one, I used RV55 and then RV66, and I am using flicking motions so that I can just easily blend that color out. And I'm going to put some of that on the hearts. This is super, super simple to do, and that's why I really like this. You could stamp on a bunch of them and just sit in color while you're watching television, and then by the time you're ready, you could just crank out a bunch of cards using this. So this is the pattern that I chose. So the next color I'm going to be doing is a light blue. So we'll start with some B52, and then for my darker shade I'm going to come in with some B34, and we're going to bring that down, and we're also going to bring it up. And then I color the other one a little bit differently, one of the other hugs, both the other hugs actually. And then I'm going to bring in like this minty color for the G. I kind of was trying to match up with the lines, the stripes, because that's how the panel is going to go on top of the patterned paper. But there were our colors. And then we're going to do the exact same thing with this one as we did with the other 2 letters and just blend those out. And then I'll bring in some other colors for like the little leaves. We're going to use those outside colors, that light pink and that green. So we'll start with our green because I want to layer this up. And you can do this with alcohol markers if you have a limited number of markers. So I'm just going to use that G46, and I'm also going to use that color again over those leaves after I let that dry just a little bit. I'm going to go on to do the rest of my coloring with that pink color that I'm bringing in, which is just the R83. It's going to be the little berries. I'm even going to do the little lines on the its, A, and then with A. So I think it's fun that the font is so different on this sentiment. It's fantastic. So here's where I bring in that G46 again, and then that's going to deepen up that shade at the bottom. So if you let it dry, you can add dimension that way. So for our next one, I'm not going to show you all the coloring of all 3 just because it's basically the same. The only reason why I wanted to show you this one is because I do sort of ombre with this one, only in the sense that it's dark at the bottom and it's a little bit lighter at the top, only using those 2 colors. So I thought that was fun. So we'll just color the entire word with that one red marker. And then once we have that all colored in, we're going to bring in our darker color. And then we'll do our ombre flicking. Flicking is a really good way to really lighten up the color at those edges. And then I'll just do the same thing, just coming up from the bottom on all 3 of the letters. And then I'll bring in that lighter red color again and flick that out as well. So it's sort of ombre, it's kind of cool. And then I do the same thing on the other hug, and there that one is. So now I'm bringing in those My Favorite Things stitched rectangle STAX dies, and they matched perfectly. So I cut all 3 of those out, and now I'm going to go ahead and adhere the patterned paper to my card bases, which were just some white cardstock, a heavyweight white cardstock. I'm going to put it more in the middle so we'll have a border on both the right and left hand side, but those pattern papers go all the way to the top, so they measured I think about 3 3/4 by 5.5 inches. So it left a nice border on both sides. Or it might have been 4 inches, I can't remember. Either way, we have a nice little white border on the side of both or all three of those cards. And I think these patterns are just absolutely beautiful. I could have gone and bought up more of that paper, but I was like, no, you have plenty of paper in your stash. So, but like I said, this is a very fun way to use that up. Now I have cut down using one of the smaller rectangle stacks in that same die set. I cut down some fun foam. So here's a inexpensive way to add some dimension to your panels. I just cut that fun foam down, and I'm using some liquid glue to adhere that to each of those card panels and then attach that to the card bases. And it does add a pretty good amount of dimension, but it also makes it easy to mail, and you don't have to worry about anything flattening through the mail, which is kind of nice. For a final bit of embellishment, I did pull out some sequins, and these are by Simon Says Stamp. These are the Lucky Shamrock sequins, and I put 3 up top, 2 on the bottom. These just matched so nicely. There's a lot of white, and there's some like clear ones, and then almost like a sea foam. So when you think lucky, like Lucky Shamrock, you're thinking, I would think deeper greens, but they really weren't. And so they just matched so perfectly with these patterned papers. And then I'm going to go in with that Nuvo. It's the Morning Dew. It's the Nuvo drop called Morning Dew. So basically it's clear. And I am going to fill in all the letters of the word hug on all 3 of those panels. And it looks cloudy right now, but in the pictures at the end you will see that it will be nice and clear. And then they have some extra added dimension and shine. And I love how that turned out. And Max likes it too, which makes me a little nervous because it's a wet product. So I'm going to show you here in a second. I'll show you this first one, and then because he's making me so nervous, I'm going to pull him off the desk, and then I'll show you the other 2. But that is going to finish off all 3 of those cards. I thought it was a fun way to use up some of that patterned paper that I had, and also to crank out some really nice quick cards using that beautiful folded hug stamp by Trinity. If you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I typically have 3 to 4 videos a week, and I would love to have you keep coming by. As always, thank you for stopping by, and I will see you very soon in the next video. Bye, everybody.